6G will connect the intelligence. And therefore, the summit is not just about the technology, it's about the India's leadership in the next digital decade. And as the ancient wisdom recites us, Udyamehi Siddhyanti Karyanti na Manorathe, means great achievements are not fulfilled by the dreams alone, but the decisive decision that we used to take care of here. And with that note, defines India today, a nation moving from the aspiration to the execution today. And with that note, it's my pleasure to welcome each one of you here once again. And before going ahead, let's start our day with a lamp lighting first. And I request our dignitaries, Dr. Siddharth Shukla, Telecom and Satellite Communication Consultant, Dr. Anuj K. Srivastava, PhD Indian Telecommunication Services, and Jaidev Ghosh, Big Four Consulting Partner. Imtiaz Alam sir, please kindly come forward. And Suresh Chandra, member of GAC under ITX, please kindly come forward for the lamp lighting. Thank you very much.
Respected speakers, industry leaders, partners and delegates, on behalf of Next Year Conferences, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to India 6G Vision and Future Network Summit 2026 here in New Delhi. We are living in a remarkable era of technological transformation. While the world is still expanding the potential of 5G, the vision for 6G and Future Network is already taking place, promising ultra-intelligent connectivity, AI-driven networks, seamless integration between terrestrial and non-terrestrial systems, and entirely new digital experiences. India today stands at a very exciting point in this journey. With a strong policy direction and rapid digital adoption and a vibrant technology ecosystem, our country has the opportunity not only to adopt 6G but also to contribute to the shaping global 6G standards and innovation. Throughout the day, we will explore critical themes such as India's 6G vision and policy roadmap, future networks architecture, AI-driven telecom infrastructure, cloud-native networks, and the integration of satellite and non-terrestrial connectivity. I would like to sincerely thank to our distinguished speakers, partners and sponsors for supporting this initiative and sharing their valuable insights with the industry. Most importantly, I thank all the delegates present here today for taking the time to be part of this important conversation about the future of connectivity in India. I hope today's discussion will inspire new ideas, collaboration and innovation that will help.
I've been giving this topic and this is my core area, which is 6G vision and the future networks. So we'll discuss that. And I'll take the questions at the end if anybody is desirous of this. This is an organization many of you must be aware, Bharat 6G Alliance, and I was one of the vice chairs of the Spectrum group there for last 1 year, and I'm still a member of that group. Because 5G vision, we lost that race. We couldn't involve ourselves into the standards and the protocols. So this is where the Indian government has taken an initiative that we should have a Bharat 6G Alliance, where from the industry partners, even from the ministries, and we put our minds together and give a vision before the 2029, the standardization is done by 2029. So the vision here is, I've taken the slides from the Bharat 6G Alliance, websites and other presentations. Basically to provide more reliable ultra latency. So actually basically an upgrade from 5G, but what is new is ubiquitous connectivity. What we want is that connectivity should be throughout, incorporating AI, organic AI. That means AI. What we have done in 5G, when we rolled out, we realized that we have to add on AI, algorithms to optimize the network for green energies, for better traffic scheduling. That should be ab initio. It should be done beforehand when we design the standards for 6G. Sensing capabilities, intelligent networks, it is on the viewfield. The point here is it should be affordable, sustainable, and ubiquitous. Ubiquitous here is important because after the rollout of 5G, I have been instrumental in getting the 5G regulations from Telecom Regulatory Authority of India as Joint Advisor Quality of Service, and we realized that the 5G connectivity in India is good at most of the places, but it is not as good, and that is our experience. Because in 5G, the three verticals which we have, enhanced mobile broadband, low latency service, and machine-to-machine communication, we have only experienced the enhanced mobile broadband, and as a 4G user to 5G user, I don't see much of a difference. When I see the data rates coming in, the latencies from 20 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds in India, in Delhi at least, we have tested that, and it doesn't make much of a perceivable difference. So these are the three things we envisaged in Bharat 6G Alliance as a vision. Now if you see the capabilities here, the new capabilities in blue on top have been added. The green ones have been enhanced for 5G. The latency is improved, 0.1 to 1 millisecond, reliability, mobility, these have improved. Now these are benchmark figures, lab figures. If you ask me, 5G was to deliver around some 1 millisecond or at least 1 millisecond latency, but when we tested in 5-6 cities when I was in TRI, we found it is around 10 to 15 milliseconds, which is good enough. 4G is giving around 30-40 milliseconds. But that is not the big difference for enhanced mobile broadband experience. But for the low latency service and other two verticals, it is important. What is new here is coverage. We want coverage everywhere. So ubiquitous is a big term here. The coverage is everywhere. Sensing related capabilities, AI related capabilities, sustainability, that network should be sustainable. This is a very commonly used term nowadays. And positioning and interoperability should be there. So these are the basic pillars on which 6G vision of India 6G vision is built. So the uses scenarios, if you see what happened with 5G is that we rolled out 5G and the use cases were being evolved. Till now, the use cases have not been monetized by all the operators in India. And India is one of the biggest 5G, economy and telecom sector, and the fastest growing, where the revenue is a very important factor here. So return on investment has been less because 5G use cases have not been defined. So here we say the 5G use cases should be defined before the network is launched, and the three enhanced scenarios also, so high reliable low latency. So things 5G, things aim on. The new things are AI, sensing capabilities, and ubiquitous. So various groups in Bharat 6G Alliance, and basically the aim is to have these groups working on specific white papers which can be put into ITU and 3GPP for inclusion when the standards is there. So Indian point of view should be also incorporated when the standardization of 6G is there, so that we are a big market, big user base, and we are the future of the world in at least telecom user requirements and consumption. So it is just a graphical representation of these points. I'll hurry up because I've got less time. So now let's see the spectrum part. Where we are looking 5G at. So we are looking 6G at. It is 7 to 24 gigahertz is the golden band for 6G, which the government and the operators are looking at, because below 6 there was a lot of fight. Finally, government allocated the lower 6 to the Wi-Fi forum and the upper 6 to the telecom cellular forums. So finally, this is where we are looking at above mid band, which is also called a centimeter wave. So if you see this graph, 5G, 4G we are already aware, it was there in 2000, 2500, even 700, 900, so L and S bands are there. 5G was planned for millimeter wave as well as mid band, but millimeter wave did not take off because the coverage ranges were too less, cost and the manufacturing devices were not stable. Till now the handsets are not very popular and affordable. Hence mid band 3.5 GHz is where 5G is being used everywhere all over the world. 5G Advanced is something which is planned again by the OEMs, that if you, before 6G comes, we'll give you some capabilities in 5G, existing 5G hardware. We'll add on AI capabilities, we'll add on sensing capabilities, we'll add on network slicing and other things. where Jio rolled into pure 5G, Airtel rolled into, NSA architecture. I'm sure people must be aware that 4G, RAN and 5G core, even Vodafone is also doing the same. Vodafone idea. So, point is everybody will graduate to a core 5G which is SA, standalone architecture, and once that is done, we can go for 5G advanced capabilities like RAN sensing, RAN slicing, low latency, prioritize services to specific users. So these capabilities can be there. 6G, as we showed in the pink, is 75 GHz is the band. So this is what we were discussing is lower 5G, lower 6G is for most probably now allocated to Wi-Fi. Upper 6.4 to 7.025 will be for 5G. This band will be for 5G advanced, and 6G will be beyond 7 GHz, 7 to 15. So there's a lot of refarming going on. There are 4 operators, and out of 4 operators, everybody is asking for 500 megahertz of spectrum. Right now they have 100. So government has already allocated 900. 1100 more has to be refarmed from other places like defense, other sectors which are not utilizing the same. And this is to be done by before the 6G comes in. And specifically for 5G advanced, maybe in a year or two. So the bullet points on the view file present on the same point. Now, since the time is short, I'm not dwelling much into the spectrum aspects. Finally, when we say the 3 areas where 6G will, change the way we, communicate, is getting sensing capabilities, getting AI-enabled capabilities, and the third is ubiquitous connectivity. When I say ubiquitous connectivity, that means wherever I go, I should be connected on 6G. But the point is, I cannot build, install towers in all the remote areas or the hilly areas or the deserts because return on investment is not there. I've been part of Airtel as an operator, so I know everything counts. Return on investment is the main thing. If I put so much of investment, what do I get? If there are only 50 people there. So the other option is going through satellite connectivity. Now, satellite connectivity is basically satellite internet. What we get, Starlink is satellite. You have a satellite modem, and you open up, and that has been used. I've been in the army for 26 years. I know we've been using satellite phones. And it has been extensively used by government sector and the defense primarily. But for a normal civilian or organization to have a satellite phone is a costly paraphernalia. But Starlink and such companies, because cost for installing a satellite and the transponder bandwidth has increased, so now it has become affordable. But still the cost of that hardware is big. That doesn't actually integrate much with the telecom. What we are talking is NTN. NTN is where your normal handset can speak to the satellite phone, non-terrestrial networks. And the satellite world and the cellular world are mixing together. So I'll just give you a brief on the same, though we have a panel at 2:30 on the same. So post EMU stabilizations, now the revival of LEO satellites has ensured that the latency of the handset is less. So the time from reaching from 35,000 kilometers in GEO satellites to LEO, which is very near to the Earth's surface, is around 700 kilometers, is less. So it will, your handset can communicate to a satellite. If that happens, I'm just going through the slide as time is less. These are 3 different altitudes: LEO, low Earth orbit satellites, high Earth orbit satellites, and geostationary satellites, which are at 36,000 kilometers. So, what new generation satellites are all LEO satellites, the Starlink and the OneWeb satellites. So right now satellite internet is coming. Another screen, what you can see is that flat antenna modem which you open and you can connect through your Wi-Fi router, your handset. That is what satellite broadband. It is not NTN. When I say NTN, so this satellite broadband, some rates are given. The data rates which come 200 Mbps for Airtel, 200. So generally people are, with the new technologies, you can get as good as 5G speed on satellite broadband. But then you need that modem and the Wi-Fi router. It is not directly through the phone. What we are talking is here NTN, where your handset can speak. So on the default diagrams you can see that mobile handset is speaking directly. If you are on a ship or on an aeroplane, from your mobile handset you can speak through the satellite, through the ground gateways to the telecom network. So your operator will charge more and will provide you these services. So the technical details I am not getting in, but this is how NTN will take place. So what are the applications? You have extended coverage. So where the coverage, ubiquitous connectivity will be covered by NTN. So the satellite world and the cellular world will merge with this. They will have an agreement, and with that agreement, you will be charged more amount and some premium for users who are staying on the hills and mountains or remote areas, remote villages. they can use the cellular Airtel network, but when they are out of coverage of the Airtel or Jio network, they can connect through the satellite to the Airtel network. This is what NTN is all about for a layman. So the global connectivity, IoT enhancements will be there. Broadcasting, multicasting, and network capacity will increase. These are just bullet points, not getting into much technical detail here. These are the bands. So the bands are same because they are same so that your handset, which is right now working on Airtel and Jio frequency, can also work on these satellites, directly speaking to the satellites. So there are two use cases primarily of NTN. One is for the IoT and second is for the handset, which is called an NR. So in NTN, it is not a normal satellite. You will have the base station on the satellite. If the base station is on the satellite, it's something like your tower is on the satellite. So you are speaking directly to the tower on the satellite. Hence, your phone can connect directly to the satellite. That is an advantage. So there are two applications. One mobile connectivity to the satellite, and the other is the IoT. That means your handsets, your smartwatches, your vehicles, everything connected to satellite. Everybody is connected on the go. So some use cases are there: wearable smartphones, vehicle mounted. So the industry 4.2, all these concepts will take place, mining, other, if satellite connectivity is there. If you're not connected with the cellular tower, you connect on the satellite. This is what the NBN concept is there. For NB-IoT, as well as for direct to device, D2D, wherein on land or sea or on air in the aircraft, you can connect through the satellite and use the destination network anywhere globally. That is what the vision of 6G is. And for that ubiquitous vision, we need this NTN first, which will come in 28-29. That is what has been anticipated. And by 2030-31, the full 6G, all full basket will be there. There are some challenges though, because satellite communication challenges. There is a cloudy weather, there is some snowfall. You will have disruptions in the network. Speed of your vehicle, there will be some Doppler effect and such technical issues will be there, but all these challenges have to be there. Secondly, spectrum, the cellular world doesn't want to share the spectrum with satellite world because they feel their user base will be moving out. So all these challenges are there. Hence, it is a vision which will be there. Evidently, this marriage has to take place. The husband and wife in the cellular world and the satellite world, even if they do not want, they have to get into this marriage because that is the way you can give coverage to everybody. Coverage is a big issue in wireless communication. That is, in short, since it was a keynote, I just touched few points. If anybody has their questions, they can ask me, and I'll be available here till my session at 2:30. I hope I finished on time. Any questions? Thank you.
Distinguished guests on the dais, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen. Difficult to speak after such elaborate presentations made by my colleagues here, especially difficult to speak after Dr. Siddharth's presentation. Siddharth and I have been on several similar conferences, and his presentations are always, very informative, very, brief, yet it's on the right points. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Srivastava, for your very elaborate and detailed presentation, which we all of us learned a few things here. They say in technology that we often overestimate what can happen, may happen in 2 years time approximately, but we always underestimate what can happen in 10 years time. This was earlier attributed to Bill Gates' law, but in today's AI world it's attributed to, it's called Amara's law, based on the Mr. Roy Amara of Stanford, who's a futurist, that we always think that great wonders will happen in next 1 or 2 years. It doesn't happen and we get disappointed, but finally, after 8, 10, 15, 20 years, we see things were actually okay and they are working out. We have seen this earlier in the dot-com boom also and many other times. So that is how I wanted to start. So we are at a very interesting moment now because today here at the 6G summit, the question is no longer whether 6G will happen and when will happen. Those things are unknown. The real question is actually who will shape it, who will standardize it, and who will benefit from it. Standing here in March 2026, roughly we could expect, as per the timeline set by global bodies, around 4 years from now we should see some kind of limited, at least commercial launch of 6G in some countries, in some areas. That's year zero of 6G. As somebody said, if 4G was the era of smartphone and 5G is the era of connected machine or IoT, then 6G is the era of connected intelligence. We are just building a faster internet. So 6G is not a faster 5G. We are building a nervous system of a sentient society which includes AI native networks, integrated sensing and communication, immersive services, massive machine communications, ubiquitous connectivity, and even, as was said, non-terrestrial integration. I realize I would have said a lot of technical jargons, so I'm going to take a pause for a second or so. But those are the directions in the ITU 2030 framework for 6G, which was mentioned earlier also. So as I said, 6G is not a fast 5G. It's not 5G on steroids. It's a fundamental architecture shift. Why do I say that? So number one, first we are moving from speed to sensing. Speed, yeah, of course, high speed is there, but just mere high speed doesn't do anything at the ground level. Neither it is economically viable nor it creates a big difference compared to the previous generation. We have seen that between 4G and 5G. But why do I say it's a fundamentally different system? Because number one, we move from speed to sensing. 5G gave us gigabits, 6G hopefully will give us terabits. But the real game changer is ISAC, integrated sensing and communication. For the first time, the radio waves themselves can see and feel, and the network becomes a high-resolution radar, mapping our physical world into a digital world. And the integration between physical, biological, and digital should happen much more seamlessly in a 6G environment. So sensing and communication is an important part of 6G, which we do not have right now. Secondly, as was mentioned, we are moving from latency to instantaneity. We are targeting sub-microsecond latency, which is, how does it matter? That is the difference between doing a remote surgery which went okay to performing a flawless surgery. That's the difference. It's important to understand that. Third, we move from AI add-on to AI native. So AI is not an additional item on the network, which is not an additional app. The network itself is the AI, which can self-heal, optimize and take corrective actions before human beings come to know of it or act on it. And that is why 6G is not a faster 5G, it's a different generation, it's a different architecture. It is not merely about just downloading a movie faster or some such content faster. So what are the new possibilities? Smart factories, not only smart factories that we have today also, if not here, elsewhere, but the smart factories which can actually self-optimize. Digital twins of infrastructure like airports, seaports, of cities, and also human body, so that various things can be done on the twin, digital twin of the actual item. Precision sensing, which I mentioned that. Then URLLC, ultra reliable, low latency services, and seamless connectivity across terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks, which means today mobile 4G, 5G, we see all these towers, terrestrial towers, either on the ground or on the top of a roof. But in 6G, those will be there, but it will also integrate, as was mentioned by Siddharth, will also with the satellites. So that's the big difference, which is not there right today in the current generation of network. So the true story of 6G is not just having more bars on the right hand side top corner of the handset. It is something entirely different. It is a lot more intelligence in the network, which we possibly cannot see on the screens of our mobile phones. So in the 5G era or 4G era, if we look at the screens, and many of us in the room also are right now looking at the screens rather than on the proceedings on the stage. So if we have we're looking at screens, mobile screens in 5G era currently, and 6G, the air around us, the world around us itself will be the screen. So that's the difference. We don't necessarily need, because it can sense. If you're moving from the stage to the door or other parts of the hotel, it can sense that the individual is moving without a sensor or a separate camera. That's the difference between a 5G kind of 5G is sufficient for all of us, and a 6G kind of network. So where are we in the sense, where is the world today? Everybody is trying to launch, hopefully by 2030, at least selectively. The global roadmap is actually locked. The ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, and 3GPP have laid the tracks, and 2030 is the finish line for the commercial launch, at least in a limited way. The countries and blocks which are moving aggressively include Europe, especially Finland, the US, China, of course, goes without saying. China holds 40% of the 6G patents by and large in that range. South Korea, Japan, Finland I already mentioned, which is always ahead on telecom matters. In the US, for example, and all of these have their own alliances and arrangements. In the US, for example, Next G Alliance is there. It's a major industry level initiative focused on standardization, commercialization, and manufacturing readiness. Europe is also having its own 6G programs, and they are also moving ahead with those. But this is not a race to speed. It is not who will launch this first. That is not the race which is happening here. It's a race for intellectual property. Whoever owns the standards will own the 6G. That is the difference here. It's not that who launched first. It's not like our market which operator launched first. First is not a criteria here. Whoever owns the standard. As I said, China owns about 40% of the global 6G patents. South Korea another 25 odd percentage. US 20%. 40 plus 25 plus 20. So these three countries collectively own about 85% of the 6G patents, and then you have Finland and European Union, Japan. Then that leaves, where do we then stand if 85-90% of 6G patents are there already by other countries? Because India has a target. India's situation is like this. The 6G vision, which we saw some of the material in the first presentation, was launched in 2023. Through a vision document was launched. India wants to take a peer role and not a follower role in 6G. And in 4G, we were a laggard, clearly, whether you like it or not. We started later and we imported almost everything. In 5G, we became a fast follower and the fastest, rollout in anywhere in the world. And then, like most other things, the largest customer base, the largest, and I have a problem with that in general. We have the largest, one of the largest subscriber base of WhatsApp. We have the largest Facebook users, and one of the largest ChatGPT, users after, and many other things, non-tech also. Largest number of newspapers, largest number of political parties. It's always largest. So there is nothing very big deal about it. We have the largest population in the world, and we are the test case and the user base for many technologies without necessarily. And all these names I mentioned: Facebook, WhatsApp, ChatGPT. How many of these are Indian, made in India, designed in India? None. That's the sad part of our, it's probably a wrong place to say, but we have the largest number of English newspaper readers. Of course, you will have because there's so many people. What is the big deal? So similarly, we have the largest 5G network, highest data consumption. Those things are easy to do because the numbers are fairly large, but none of these things are designed in India. Can we speak of any one Indian handset brand? No, we are the largest maker and exporter of Apple handsets in India, courtesy PA Lab. But Apple, Samsung, others are Chinese brands. Which is the Indian handset brand? Not that I can remember anyone which is still, kind of doing well. We had some, but so we always have been following a predictable pattern. We will adopt what is there already in the world, and then we will claim we are the fastest rollout and largest base, and that has been our strength so far. In 6G, that is not the intent. The government has acted early only in 2023. The 6G vision document was released, and we aspire to be a peer. We want to have 10% of the 6G patents in the next 3-4 years. It's difficult, but at least the target is there. And that brings me to the Bharat 6G Alliance, which we have heard, and we will hear later part of the day also. This is a policy focus, and it's grounded in the mission documents. There are about 7 working groups, if I am not mistaken: spectrum, device, technology, sustainability, and such, and so on and so forth. And that the North Star as in the vision is guided by 3 things. A, for affordability, because 6G or any G needs to be affordable in a country like India, because we have a wider population and now per capita, nobody speaks of per capita GDP. We want to be number 3, number 4, but divided by 1.4 billion, the numbers look very small actually. So we need to have an affordable 6G or any such services. Number 2, sustainability. We aim zero energy devices. Once the device is charged, it can work for years, maybe a decade, or it can get charged from the spectrum itself. It doesn't need a separate charging. And third is ubiquity. That's why I said it's not only telecom towers what you see around us or on the top of a roof, but it's also high altitude systems, LEO, the satellite systems, which has been explained before, so I won't repeat. It's a combination of satellite plus terrestrial tower plus high altitude systems, which means it's a wider kind of a That also helps because those will make us reach every nook and corner of the India with satellite communications wants to do. But the satellite communication per se is very expensive, not affordable by most of us in this room. Leave aside somebody who from a lower economic strata living in some remote area. And then, as we also declared, the Delhi Declaration in the recently concluded India AI Impact Summit highlighted our technology must be inclusive, it must serve the many, not just the few. Welfare for all, happiness to all. It's not my dialogue, it was written all over in the India AI Impact Summit, but that was the motto. Welfare for all, happiness to all. Any technology which reaches the people, the masses, should be aligned to those kinds of philosophies. So finally, we have heard all the technology aspects from the morning. Question is the economics. Where is the money? Why should somebody launch 6G in India? Finally, innovation and technology, as was explained by my previous speaker, that's the spark. But economics, that's the fuel. To move from interest to commitment, our telecom ecosystem, especially the operators, 3 private operators, 1 BSNL, they need a clear path. Just over 4 years ago, for the so-called 5G auction, spectrum auctions, all the operators, they committed about 1,50,000 crores. Out of which 88,000 crores was committed by Jio, about 44,000 crores was committed by Airtel, and lesser numbers by Vodafone, and a smaller number for reasons not known to me. Adani Group also, I think, from 200 crores, they also wanted to put there. Now 1,50,000 crores by 3 private companies, that's a huge number, $19 billion. Of course, not to be paid on day one, but over a period of time, but that's the commitment. And then you need money to roll out the services also for 5G. So that kind of numbers, money is being expected to be paid by the private operators. They need a return also. 5G was launched 2022 during Diwali. I don't hear much of success beyond FWA, fixed wireless access, in terms of monetization. So why would somebody put 1 lakh crore, 2 lakh crore in just spectrum if it takes 5 years and still not monetizable to that extent? There's something called return on investment. The economics simply doesn't work. Period. Why will I put money if I'm not getting a return? Forget of telecom. I will not waste money if I'm, nowadays this meme going on. How do you earn, how much should I invest to get 1 lakh after 1 year? The answer is you put 2 lakhs now, so you get 1 lakh after 1 year. That is the meme going on. So why would somebody put money? That's the question. And then what does government, there are no telecom ministry, I expected some telecom ministry person here, now it looks like. So what does the operator community need from, not only operator, others need from, because operator doesn't have money in the other systems, equipment, they all don't get to, their economic return. 3 things I would think. One is spectrum pricing sanity. It's been going on. Spectrum is like the lifeline of telecom. It's like the oxygen. Why are you pricing it like a Cartier or a Rolex, like a luxury good? It needs to be reasonable and comparable with other countries with whom we want to compete, compare, and also win. Number 2, ease of approvals, ROW. Okay, there's a telecom act which was finalized a couple of years ago. It does speak about ROW, rights of way simplification. Now, whether it is actually working at the municipal town level, that needs to be seen. There are a lot of things in our acts and laws and union budget, whether that gets done. To track all the union budgets, how much of all the announcements are made. I think I'm being very critical. That should be wrong thing to do here. But we don't track the implementation. A lot of announcements look very nice. So the same thing here also. Ease of approval needs to be there, and then capex incentive. Why would somebody 1,50,000 crore is for the spectrum only? They need to roll out. There's a capex there. Why would a private party pay another few thousands of crores if there's no return? So there needs to be some kind of capex subsidy, capital investment subsidy, or other such mechanisms to make it more attractive. So ROI is what it's going to drive the launch. The economics need to work for 6G to be successful in India. So I think we need to conclude now. So we are standing at the threshold of a new era, and the 6G is the bridge between the world that we are here today, looking at our mobile screens, and the world in the future, or the expected world in the future, when the environment around us will be the screen. And India, of course, has the talent, we have the scale, as I said, we always are the largest, biggest, but we are at advantage also, I'm not over criticizing. And now we also have an India sovereign stack, courtesy C. Tata Group companies, TCS, and I think Tejas Networks also. Yeah, so we have an India stack, not too many companies, perhaps 5-6 countries in the world have the sovereign stack, and mostly in the Europe or South Korea. So now we are one of those. So we have the scale, we have the talent, we have the India stack, which is new. Now we also want to have the standards influence, the policy clarity, and the investment environment to lead. As I said, we were laggards and fast followers in 4G, 5G. India now wants to, through the Bharat 6G Alliance and various initiatives, wants to be at the peer level of South Korea, China, and US and European Union countries. That's the ambition, that we don't need to be followers and laggards in the future for 6G is concerned, because for 6G, the countries that lead will not just use the future, they will actually define it. It's not a question of when it will be launched, how many people will use it. We have always this cost per GB mindset. We are one of the most affordable mobile services in the world. That mindset is there, I cannot change it, but nobody is asking about value per outcome. It's always cost per GB, price per GB, and so on and so forth. The mindset is larger scale, cheap services, so you multiply scale into low rate and you earn the money that way. The economics doesn't necessarily work for 6G unless it's affordable. That is the issue. I'll stop here. As I said earlier also, if India was a passenger in 4G, India was at best a co-pilot in 5G. And for 6G, the aspiration is through the Bharat 6G Alliance is to be one of the chief pilots of 6G in the world. We'll see what happens 4-5 years from now. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
I would like to bring a little bit different perspective. What do we think 6G should be, how it can be done? It's really, as we talked a lot about India's intention to have leadership role in 6G and claiming 10% of 6G essential patents. It's a big task. At least the country leadership made a good resolve. Whether we are going to get it or not, we want to get it. And this resolve is certainly a strong mandate to all of us, whether we are researchers, we are product developers, we are doing business feasibility on doing services. So in this context, my submission here is to share some thoughts based on my experience of industry as well as in this academic institute, and would see how it may connect with the requirement of the country. This session, so there were some thoughts which I was gathering. Particularly the Bharat 6G Reliance leadership, how Bharat 6G Reliance leadership is going to help us in getting those goals achieved. Is it a consortia? Is it a business leadership? Is it support for global standardization? Is it global business collaborations? I'm not clear. So this is one question which I have, and I'm really seeking this answer. So I plan to talk from the perspective academia and industry partnership. And I see this partnership between academia and industry in different forms. When the industry is matured and already in a good shape, they need academia contribution in some form. They need academia to do a very forward-looking research, which after few years can find place to be incorporated in their next generation of products. If the industry R&D is not matured enough, then they look forward from the academia, can they really help us in developing the current product which we are developing? And situation in the country is not so rosy. We know that they were, when the 4G was being developed and deployed, our readiness was not there. When the 5G got deployed, product readiness was not there. Of course, Mr. Ghosh made a point that yes, we did do a large deployment for 4G later. So by virtue of 1.4 billion people, many things we do at the large number. So that is fine. But from the technological readiness, we are still lagging behind. So there is another perspective which is coming up that possibly the startups are going to do the great job. And we have large number of startups, very huge numbers, and a very sizable number of startups are doing sizable business also. But my satisfaction is actually not coming from the large business unicorns, and the dissatisfaction is coming from very limited number of deep tech startups. Because this is the deep tech startups which can give you a kind of a national readiness for the next generation technology. And when we are talking about 6G, is actually next generation technology. It is not the e-commerce business or the business will scale just by the number of users. It is the deep tech part. So I would like to put forward some of our views, what we think as a collaboration between industry and academia in this current context. So what we are talking here is a experience. Now I come from an industry for over 35 years, worked in the industry for good many national importance programs. Luckily, all of them were successful programs, starting from defense for CDOTS, large capacity switch, for second generation mobile technology programs. And then later a product which came out to be most energy efficient base station of the world, largest deployment of a green network of the not of the country, but worldwide. So more than 2,000 locations deployed, grid-free, entirely designed in India by an Indian company. Of course, we had an experts which we pulled from Europe. We had a very small 20-25 people research and development activity as the core of Ericsson's headquarters in Seasta. For a portion of the products in which the expertise actually initially didn't exist in the country. And so we could do it. We knew that we want to do something very difficult and it need to survive and compete with the worlds of Nokia's and Ericsson's, right? And then we have chosen this is the part which we want to do, and this was recognized as the most innovative product of the world in 2009 by World Economic Forum. $500 million business from one project. It's a big success and all designed by us. So with this kind of background and the people who are actually in a research community from last 20-25 years and with their expertise and success of doing an experimental research actually trying to see the light of the day of the research what they are doing. So we thought that yes, this is possibly a one good way of collaborating with the deep research on advanced topics which is being done, and if we can find a model to do the product development and the research in the same time, then something can emerge, and research is always ahead of the state of art. So if there are publications from our IIT ISC community, if there are patents at these institutes, they are not followers. So the research, if already exists and we are also doing the same thing, PhD is not granted, right? So the problem is that when the time when we publish, somebody immediately works on that publication and turn into a product. And we don't have that mechanism established that this research progresses fast for the next stage towards the product realization. So what we thought in this case, that if we really want to do something substantial in the country, then a portion of our research must be a product oriented. And if there's a product orientedness in the research, and we have our industry experts working together who have done such a product design, architecting, implementation, fieldworthiness proving in their life, then this combination would ensure that whatever comes out from this research initiative, number one, it is field deployable, and then it has to be ahead of the state of art. So if you are talking about a 6G in this context, so we cannot wait for 6G standards to be made available, and if you start developing your product when 6G standards are out, then you are anyway late. You can't do anything in 2030 because standards will come in 2028, 29, somewhere that time. Of course, you get some kind of understanding what is likely to be 6G. We are saying 40% of 6G patents from one country like China. I'm not sure how good this number is, but since they have large number of patents on all possible aspects which may potentially be included in 6G standards, then this number should be right. And we are also doing, in India also we are doing that arithmetic and metering that how many, every month how many patents we are filing and how our number in last 1 year is increased from 1 to 128 to some good number today. But that good number is much less than what we can think of about 10%. It is, arithmetic is completely failing on that one. So the model which we are trying to do is first, I'm not ashamed to say that, but our academic institutions do not have right experimental setups. Many of the times, the 5 years ago when we started activity at IIT Delhi, we found that many of our experimental setups are using commercial products. Many a time these commercial products are MNC's commercial product, where they have no interest to share any insight of their product so that research outcome can be integrated with it. So these kind of collaborations are very common in US and Europe, right? We didn't have these collaborations. A company who is generating 6G product, globally leader, is also working with our research team. So then what is the way? In 5G, IIT Chennai took a lead and all other IITs, ISCs pulled together. Government was very nice allocating over 250 crore rupees of a fund of 5G test bed. It was a fantastic experience, extremely successful, but because at one point the end-to-end 5G system functionality was realized.
but it was never meant for deployment. It was never an objective. It could never be replicated. That what was achieved in IIT Madras could never be replicated in all other IITs, ISCs. So one of the goals for us was to really find a way in which you can create replicable test benches. And so we did that. And this exercise gave us an opportunity to create a experimental test bed in our control, right? So that the 60 the research was already being done. Now we got an opportunity to experimentally verify those 60 research. I think I have a chart for that. So this is the cycle how the research is actually being done. So you have some inception stage and then the simulation stage. And in the simulation, we researchers are very intelligent. We can do a very right simulation of the concept which we want to prove in this paper. Once our algorithms are verified by the simulations done by us, we can put those results, and those results are in some form published, and this is normally the end of the research, and we do the next thing. And this is how the publication-based research is the prominent one. Now, to take it further, you need to do the experiment implementation. Suppose somebody has done a new radio resource mechanism to be implemented. Possibly it is a good technique to be adopted in 60 networks for a particular kind of network characteristics in which the 60 network is expected, and the researcher has already done a map for that. Then how to see the validity of that new research? So you have to find a way how this MAC can be replaced in end-to-end the rest of the 5G network and see the performance. So that if you can do the environmental setting and replace this building block, you can really verify this building block performance. So when you do an experimental verification, that this results of experimental verification turn out to be a bit different than what you have done verification of the same research on a simulation model. So this is a step forward. And when you can actually integrate in a bigger system, suppose your system is deployed in a campus and you have live traffic running on it, and then you really mature. So this is the model. Many of the universities abroad are taking these steps. We also started taking, and we have I'm happy to announce that the kind of maturity of my lab of Bharti School and IIT Delhi is no less than any of the best lab available in the world in academic settings. So we have graduated from almost no level to a very reasonable level in last 5 years. Now, to developing a product in time and of course ahead of the state of art, that means it is not just the speed of the development, it is the research also need to be done, then only this product will become an ahead of the state of art, right? So for that, your model need to be, technology development model itself need to be different. So this model I'm just trying to share with you that somewhere you need to do a joint exercise of the industry experts and the researchers and the users of that organization. The user need not to be the Airtel and the Jio. The user could be, you can visualize private networks, non-public networks, captive networks for very special purposes. It could be defense, it could be railways, it could be something else. So they are the users, they know what is their next generation requirement, which cannot be met by the current set of product. They also get all kind of inputs from those suppliers, globally recognized suppliers, what they are going to get, next 5 years, 10 years, etc. So with this knowledge, if you can create the right requirements and ensure that this stage of a consolidation, you have the really definition of a next generation or the ahead of a state of art systems, then you need to split this mechanism, where somewhere the research must go and then somewhere your architecture must go assuming that some of the existing building blocks, maybe the 80% of the building blocks are existing building blocks, and it is only 20, 10, sometimes even 2 building blocks of that whole system need to be researchable. So if you are doing research and the product development parallelly, then this is the one way you can cut this timeline short, and you can possibly build these systems ahead of state of art. So if you want to map this model onto 5G Advanced, is that 5G Advanced specifications are already out as release 17, 18 and 19. Quite some time you have a full clarity on the specifications of what is going to be in 5G Advanced. There are some products, but the industry of telecom service providers, which are public service providers, they don't need it because their business case is failing. They don't need ultra reliability and low latency communication systems. So then who will need it? Certainly your captive networks will need. So if you have defined the requirement and you work with those definitely user requirements and make these systems now 2027, 2028, 2029, you should have your 5G advanced based systems realized, deployed, verified. If you have 5G advanced based systems verified in the field, say in 2028, 2029, and if you are parallelly working on a 6G, then you can think of having your first 6G product in 2030. Otherwise, no. So if we do not have this kind of preparation, I'm not sure how many places in the country we are having this preparation. So if you see the national leadership of this 6G is primarily with IIT Madras, IIT Hyderabad, IIT Kanpur, IIT Bombay partly, and from CDOT has got a big role in doing this. And of course, the companies TCS, Tejas, some of the next ones, Lekha, maybe some more people. So this is the main leadership. And whether it is a 6G vision and whatever the planning at national level is being done, what funded research is going on, this is the leadership. What I am trying to share with some of my thoughts is just by IIT Delhi, because we have some substantial contribution, but maybe I can assume that overall in the country, whatever we are doing, maybe sometimes 20 times, things must be done, right? So this is a little bit of a level, but 6G in general is intelligence everywhere, data everywhere, sensing everywhere, automation everywhere, compute is everywhere. So all that is fine. We have, but if I want to. So if I want to take your attention on a deployment scale, so initially you have say global deployment, mobile network, roaming, etc. You need to work, and then you have regional deployments. Maybe some things may change in the regional requirement. Then country-wide special things come, then you have a circle-wide operations and etc. So in 4G, something interesting happened, that you have local specialization. So that's the concept of a campus networks, spatial networks came in, and then in 6G, we are possibly going to have a kind of a hyper-local specialization, and this hyper-local specialization gives us an opportunity for much advanced networks, whether they are meant for defense, for automation of industry, surveillance, and etc. So we are seeing a big opportunity of defining the products for the private network applications, and the way the architectures are evolving, I'm sure that it has actually become a business for a small players. As long as this telecom business was limited to the public networks, then there is hardly any room for the smaller players. The current way the architectures are evolving and the private networks are going to demand a higher capable networks, and the drive for them to have a higher productivity and the lesser operating cost if this is the drive for any enterprise or a business entity, then he will have his own justification of procuring a capable communication infrastructure which is needed to that. Right. So the business case justification for a private network usage and the public network usage are going to be totally different. So it is true that the large number of worldwide initiatives are 6G is going to solve the public network objectives, but we are little narrow in our perspective. We want to take 6G only for the private network deployment objectives. Now, how do we connect this to the innovation? You know, this is an important slide I would draw your attention here. That we have already seen that the digital world, the physical world, and the virtual worlds are started overlapping. I'll just give an example, right? So the example is there is a person who goes to a factory to repair a machine. This person is not really trained. He is in general capable of, if he can be trained on site, then he can repair that. Now, to do that, this machine is already connected and you have a digital twin of that machine. And this digital twin enables the virtual world that yes, this person can be remotely trained in a virtual, using the virtual network capabilities. And through that virtual network capabilities of the training, he can make the changes or the repair the machine and put back into the system, and which can be verified. So this is how it is possible that you have got a now maybe much more real-time oriented IoT systems in place, which is taking the machine's health or machine's parameters in a digital world. You are applying digital technologies to take better inferences out of it, right? And also using the virtual techniques for completing this loop. The idea is that, say for example, we discussed about the NB-IoT is going to be a big case. The NB-IoT is a latency tolerant technology. So that means if the information goes once in a 1 hour or once in a day, that is also enough, because this is primarily metering and that kind of use cases. In a real world, there is no application which is latency tolerant. So you need the low latency technologies, and the lower the latency in the system, better the digital perception of that system which you can have. You can have a better application of this, and so it's a closed loop system. So if you need to sense something and send everything to some processing, and you want to control, and if this end-to-end requires a 10 millisecond, then the older technology cannot really solve that. So the higher the larger the next generation would actually give you an opportunity to create this control loop much more faster and smart. And we look at 6G from that angle. The Bharti School vision that we need to have solutions. We are not talking use cases. We don't want to see that situation that the 5G network infrastructure cost was met, but there is no use cases on that. So we are limiting from public network to the private network and focusing on these use cases. These use cases itself require a very large amount of research and the new technology components of it. So if we can build these use cases and you can notice that its entire industrial and strategic requirements are covered here, right? So that this core, which is a communication core, we started with 5G, we are currently doing on 5G advanced, then we are getting ourselves ready for the 6G. So this is the perspective which we want to take at the academic institute. Right? This is maybe a summary of the model which we are trying to do is that when these experts from the research and the industry experts, they work together and do something, what comes out from this is actually a seed technology. Now, if you really want to create some deep tech startups, of course the startup needs some seed money to start, but deep tech cannot be done by money. Deep tech can done with the seed technology, and this technology must come from some research labs. So this is the way you can create some sensible amount of seed technology. Maybe some potential entrepreneurs who themselves are expert in that field, they might find it interesting and they would like to take the business risk of converting that seed technology into a product. And when they make their product worthy for the commercial production and then launching it to the field, and then same production, since they come out from the startups which have been generated out of this collaborative initiative, then they don't mind sending these products back to this common function, and which could be treated as a much more advanced research platform. And so our service, our next generation of the research is much more capable, and the subsequent release which comes out from this are actually proving it ahead of state of art technology roadmap. This kind of possibility, to my knowledge, does not exist with Indian industry today, considering their R&D maturity. So if a deep tech company can prepare one product which is very good today and somehow does not get the returns on this for few years, they don't have any capacity to parallelly developing a next generation product, so there is no roadmap. And unfortunately, buyers like public service providers, they don't buy the current product, they actually buy your roadmap. So if you don't have a supported next generation roadmap, even the first opportunity is missing. So this is one model we see a very significant, where the academia and industry and primarily the deep tech startups can meet this goal. See, the way we are doing, we hear many reports from company, organizations like GSMA that say 5G has been deployed in various industry setups and for various applications, and we get this much of productivity enhancement, etc., etc. So this is some figures which have been taken one of the recent reports from GSMA, where 5G technology or 5G little bit of advanced technology was deployed. That means that ultra low latency, ultra reliability and low latency technology was deployed in a steel plant operations, and what they found is 65% reduction on on-site personnel, and this reduction is not that you are removing the people by person, it is basically the environment of an industry where human is forced to work. It is always desirable in those hazardous areas. If the automatic system can work, it's always better. So this is the kind of realization which is like 90% increase in the defect detection rate. The ability to detect the defects in the industry that defines your downtime, loss of capacity, investment in the maintenance. So ultimately you need to enhance the productivity and reduce the OPEX, and that is the gap which will become the basis for any technology absorption. And this business case would become prominent, and possibly these technology will not look forward only for the public network service provider companies to give them a business. There are large amount of business because India anyway want to become a manufacturing hub of the world, right? So these technology can be deployed there. And from IIT Delhi we have resolved that at least by December 2026 we are going to deploy some of these technology in some such deployment scenarios, and we will start publishing the results of such technologies in Indian deployments. Maybe I'll conclude my talk by just sharing one slide. So this slide is, so the upper part and the lower part of the chart, it's not plus and minus, it is one type of a business, this is another type of a business. So the public network business actually, it has grown over last few decades at some rate, and same rate of the growth was expected in 5G also, but somehow it didn't happen. So 5G business still grew, but not at the same rate as it was expected. But if you look at the chart below, that the same cellular technologies had some market in the private network areas. So there was some mission critical communications was happening even in 2G, 3G, 3G space, and it was growing very, very slow. But suddenly at some point of time, when 5G advanced technology came, practically that released 17, 18 definitions, which was initially expected to be the part of 5G initial systems, but somehow didn't happen. And Industry Association of Automatic Connect Machines, when they rejected release 15 completely, it is of no use to us. Then release 16, 17 were clearly defined to make these systems suitable for machine type. And so basically these gives you a capability of creating a deterministic network with ultra reliable, low latency, massive connectivity requirement, better time synchronization, maybe of the order of 1 microsecond, better positioning, right? And so that you can do a better, much enhanced monitoring and controlling your setups through autonomous systems. And this is actually the technology for man to machine, machine to machine, and the kind of a collaborative scenarios. So these technology could still not find the use in the public network, and so there is a potential loss of the business in the public network. This becomes the opportunity for the captive networks, and that's where I see the direction of this business to flow. And if we can focus only on the captive network and develop our technologies, and I'm very sure the public network will follow this, because if an autonomous vehicle is require a smart communication infrastructure in industry, because without that material movement cannot happen, maybe sometime later the autonomous machine or autonomous vehicle would require public network also to deploy that kind of a technology.
और ब्रॉडबैंड में तो काफ़ी सारी अभी भी इतनी टेक्नोलॉजी जापान से भी हम पीछे ही हैं, क्योंकि हमारी कंपनियां भी इक्विपमेंट लेने में थोड़ा सा घबराती है, सस्ता इक्विपमेंट चिपका रही है। इस पर थोड़ा सा रोशनी हो।
सर ये टिपिकल बिजनेस प्रॉब्लम है, मेरे पर्सपेक्टिव में आती नहीं पहली बात तो, और शायद और लोग हैं उसके लिए उपयुक्त उत्तर देने के लिए।